Our coverage of CES 2026 from Las Vegas, Nevada is brought to you by Gigabyte, Asus, MSI, and Thermaltake. Hey guys, I'm at MSI now, and I'm actually here pretty early. They're still doing some setup stuff, so there's a little bit of construction going on, but they're setting a high bar for this show. Built to be perfect. What is built to be perfect? The reintroduction of the Lightning Series of graphics card. This is MSI's just recently announced Lightning RTX 5090 GPU. It is, of course, paired with an all-in-one 360mm liquid cooler. And like I said, I'm early here, so they're still getting the system set up over here. I would like to come back to show you hopefully some footage so we can see, because it's got an 8-inch LCD panel on the top, but that is not all. We have an exploded view over here of the entire design, starting from the top with the back plate. Here we can see the PCB, which is just monstrous. Look at all those power phases. Can you count them? I can't. There are too many. The bonkers thing about this GPU is not necessarily the 3-ounce copper block that they have as a cooler for the GPU and all of the system RAM. Not even necessarily the 8-inch screen that they have that will be a display if you have the GPU vertically mounted, which they are recommending. But for me, it was the power limit, because power limit has been kind of the thing holding the RTX 5090 back for quite some time since it was launched last year. But apparently NVIDIA has recently been like, you know what? Let's open things up a little bit. So this has, for consumers, an 800 watt and a 1000 watt profile for the VBIOS for the power limit. But if you're an extreme overclocker and you can get access to it, they also have a 2500 watt profile for this card. And they've used that in combination with LN2 cooling to break 17 records as of the launch of this show that were previously not broken. So the gauntlet has been thrown down by the Lightning RTX 5090. I'm going to come back to this card in a little bit because it's probably the coolest thing that they have here. For now, let's check out a few other things. Let's talk about some more monitors. I've been trying to focus a lot on monitors for this trip because, you know, the memory thing has made things depressing otherwise, but monitor technology continues to progress, and I wanted to highlight this one here, which is the MEG X. I shouldn't be saying Meg, it's M-E-G, but it's spelled Meg, right? MSI is calling this the first true AI QD-OLED monitor, which means it's quantum.OLED. It's actually a 5th gen QD-OLED display, which means they've changed the sub-pixel layout, so they're actually using side-by-side pixels instead of the triangular one, which should help with the reproduction of text. You shouldn't get as much fuzziness or graininess at the edge of text, which can be an issue with some OLEDs. It also makes this an excellent crossover for both use with gaming, as is going on with the display here, as well as productivity. But let's get back to some of the more base specs. This is a 34-inch panel. It is 3440 by 1440 resolution. It has 0.03 millisecond gray to gray response time, and it has 360 hertz refresh rate. But of course, it wouldn't be like a new MSI gaming monitor if they didn't let you cheat somehow. So let me show you how they're doing that. Right, so with the power of AI, presumably, they're automatically highlighting characters in-game, AI tracking to like light up your opponents and show them off better to you. They also have this thing called AI goggles, so if you hit a flashbang or something, it actually gets rid of the flashbang. A little bit more cheating there, and then they have this status bar at the bottom, and it's just a video playback right now, but if you sync it up with the game, this could be tied to like your health bar or something like that to give you a much more visible and bright display of, you know, something that's crucial for your gameplay, so you can keep better track of your health and, you know, hide. You should hide if your health is getting low. At least that's what I've heard if you're playing FPS games. Here's another QD-OLED panel that's also using the 5th gen QD-OLED RGB stripe sub-pixel. You can kind of see it right there a little bit more. Color fringing, that is an example, perhaps an extreme one, of what can happen with the text in some OLED displays. This one is also 3440 by 1440 with a 360 hertz refresh rate, and they have also put a dark armor film over the top, which can both get rid of some of the glare that you see with some OLED displays, especially if you're using them in a bright environment, so giving you deeper blacks according to MSI, but it's also harder. 3H hardness apparently, which means it's not going to scratch as easily, so if you're dusting off your panel, you're not going to get little micro scratches on there. You can probably see some of the other features of this display right here. DisplayPort 2.1 G-Sync. It's going to be FreeSync compatible as well, of course. 99% of the DCI-P3 color gamut for anyone who's doing productivity. So there are a couple pretty nice new QD OLED monitors from MSI. I wanted to quickly run down the Pro Max lineup that they have over here. These are all very matchy-matchy components because some people are getting kind of sick of RGB, apparently. And you can point at MSI and say, MSI, You started this whole thing with the RGB LEDs that you put on your godlike motherboard. I don't know how many generations ago that was, but I was there. I was there when it happened. But still, some people are veering more towards a cleaner aesthetic with a little bit less of the gamer bling. So that is what the Pro Max lineup is all about. They have motherboards like the Pro Max X870E A Wi-Fi. We have a very clean looking power supply, which is all 80 plus platinum rated. It also has dual 12V2x6 cables. Oh, sorry, dual color. Never mind. Also have a nice clean looking all white power supply here in the Pro Max 1000 PL. That's 80 plus platinum certified. Clean looking AIO. This is the Pro Max M15360, which also has a little LED display. Apparently the GPU is at 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit? Okay. I guess that's okay if you're comparing it to, wait, what is it? Yeah. And here's an entire Pro Max build featuring those Pro Max components, finished off by the case, which is the Pro Max 030. You can see the logo there. It's got plenty of ventilation across the front. Very small holes on there. The Pro Max lineup also features some more like completed goods finished devices. This is the Pro Max 150 AI Plus, currently rocking an AMD Ryzen AI 9 365 processor, but of course this is going to be available with the newly announced Ryzen AI 400 series APUs or CPU plus GPUs, SoCs, whatever you want to call them. We also have some productivity-oriented displays here with the Pro Max 271UPXW12G right here, which is a 26.5 inch or 27 inch class panel, 4K, 120 hertz refresh rate. And one of the things that they're touting as far as features supporting compatibility with these monitors, such as also the Pro Max 24 right here, which is a 24 inch display, which actually is more than just a display, but I wanted to point out Apple compatibility with this monitor over here, as well as the Pro Max 271UPXW12G. Right over there. They have it connected to a Mac. They have it connected to a PC. Mac versus PC, remember those commercials? But coming back to this 24-inch one, this is not just a monitor. This is actually an entire all-in-one computer. So where's the bulge? There's no bulge back here because they're using laptop components with a Ryzen 7 H255 processor, Radeon 780M graphics, and Wi-Fi 7 support. Moving on though to this case. It is a very large case meant to display like a big old high-end graphics card, such as maybe the RTX 5090 Lightning. This is specifically called the Maestro 900R. There's a quick look at the spec sheet for you. The motherboard tray can actually be rotated to be 4 different directions, depending on how you like it, I suppose. You can't just do a 90-degree rotation. You can do full 360. This case has a very distinct look and also quite a large footprint. And again, this one seems like very specially designed to feature something like the Lightning RTX 5090. But as you can see, the motherboard tray is kind of floating out here and mounted back there, which means you're going to need to use some extensions for some of your I/O cables and that sort of thing. We also have the vertical GPU mount down here at the bottom, and this is loose. This is a demo unit on the show floor right here. So as you can see, motherboard tray is removable. That helps with building as well. Here, let's take a look at an actual build that they have in one. Although, seizure warning, we've got some bright LEDs flashing at us. Here we can see one of their Supreme graphics cards. I'm not sure which model that is. Oh wait, it's an RTX 5080. This one has a 9950X 3D. And interestingly, the AIO is the new MEG Coreliquid E15360. Pretty cool looking 360mm AIO. This one has some features that I haven't seen before, like some integrated 90-degree bends. These are actually little caps for the cables, so you put it over the cable and you can bend the cable, a little bit more tightly if you want to get around a corner or something like that. It also has a 6.67-inch 2K LED panel, and they said that rather than going with like a 90-degree bend here, because that's been done before and that's gauche, but they wanted to give you like a little bit more visibility of what if your case is off to the side or something, or ideally positioned up off the floor, and you're looking at this with a 90-degree bend, it warps the image you're looking at a little bit more. So this is, I believe, a 110-degree bend. So if you're the kind of person who likes having an LCD display, this one has it, and it is also removable. Oh, there we go. Held on by magnets, and I'm told if I pull it off, and then I can snap it back on, and it should come back to life. Did I do it right? Wait for it. There we go. The lighting reset, but now it came back to life. Here's a look at the AIO by itself with the LCD display on there. And then the other unique thing is that the fans they have are actually all in one housing. So it's sort of a triple fan with one frame. And then I'm not sure, actually you can kind of tell right here because of the refresh rate of my camera, but the fan in the middle is spinning at the opposite direction as the fans on the outside. I'm imagining that's going to possibly help reduce noise. I can't imagine MSI would have done this unless it had some benefit, but this is a technique that's been used in graphics cards for quite some time to reduce turbulence or harmonic vibration that can occur when all the fans are spinning at the same speed and the same direction. All right, and here's a new motherboard from MSI, the X870E Unify-X Max. This is not the godlike, so this is not necessarily like the top-end motherboard that MSI is producing, but it does have some unique features, such as this tuning controller that you plug into a header. I believe that's the header right down there. You plug in that cable, and then this gives you a little breakout box. So you can use this to directly adjust your CPU speed or your memory frequency. Do a little bit of on-the-fly overclocking without having to get into the BIOS. This also has 5 gigabit LAN by default, USB Type-C connectors that have 60 watts of power delivery, and a 64 megabyte BIOS, which has a couple benefits. One is kind of aesthetic. They can sort of do fancier UEFI displays with that, but it also maintains better compatibility in the future, because if AMD does with AM5 what they've done with AM4 and kept it alive for like a really long time, every time they update the UEFI, it has new microcode that is compatible with a broader range of CPUs, and that can make that package larger in terms of the amount of space it takes up. So having a 64 megabyte BIOS allows them to do some cool things with the UEFI, but also maintains better forward compatibility with potential future generations of AM5 CPUs. Here's an Intel demo I wanted to show real quick, just because look at that. They're using 256 gigabyte high capacity DIMMs. Or I should say this is a 256 gigabyte kit. So I thought that MSI's RTX 5090 Lightning was going to be the most expensive thing that they showed me here on the show floor, but it's actually probably this 256 gig memory kit from ADATA. Speaking of things that are maybe not quite as ideal as they should be in the PC hardware space, the 12V2x6 connector that powers NVIDIA RTX 50 series graphics cards and a handful of AMD cards that we won't mention right now because I just thought that was a dumb decision. But these connectors have become somewhat notorious because of their slightly higher than usual tendency to overheat and melt depending on how much amperage is going into each pin. This power supply, which is available in a 1300 watts and 1600 watt variant, and this is, by the way, the AI1600TS PCIe 5, has two 12V2x6 connectors, which means this is going to be a suitable pairing for the RTX 5090 Lightning that we gave you a little teaser of at the start. Because did I mention that that one has two 12V2x6 connectors? I feel like I did, but maybe I didn't. I can't remember now. It's been a long day. But if you have an RTX 50 series graphics card or you just want a little bit more peace of mind, this power supply actually has a pretty cool feature. This test bed that they have set up here is using one down at the bottom, and then they've also put, I think these are just, they put switches so they can actually turn off some of the wires that they want to simulate what would happen in the melting connector scenario where you have too much amperage going through one or two pins. In the demo from earlier, they turned off a couple of those. The amperage is being measured here in the software. Just one of the connectors is plugged in right now, by the way. If that gets out of whack, you get a pop-up that appears on screen that tells you, hey, you might want to consider saving your work and shutting your computer down. And then the power supply will actually also issue a warning, a beeping sound that sounds kind of like your microwave just went off, but that will beep at you to tell you, hey, turn off your computer because you don't want your connector to melt and possibly damage the connector or your very expensive graphics card. So while I am not necessarily ecstatic that this type of technology is needed in order to provide peace of mind for people who are spending thousands of dollars on NVIDIA graphics cards, NVIDIA, in their wisdom, continues to use that connector. So if you do want peace of mind, this is actually a viable solution for that. And I also appreciate that it's going to issue a warning from the PSU as well, because no one wants their GPU power connector melting. Continuing at MSI, the vibe's a little bit different in here right now because it's now the next day. I came back when they had stuff powered on, so there's a few more people, but bear with me. I wanted to show you this cool display they have. There's a lightning bolt on top because this is demonstrating the history of MSI's Lightning graphics cards, starting with the first one right here. This is an N260 GTX. When they used to have the GTX after the number, it wasn't the GTX before the number. 2009, first dual fan card on the market with a 10-phase PWM design, and this was also marketed as a twin Frozer card, which they continue to use for a variety of GPUs. This one stood out to me because I had two of these, I believe, in SLI at some point. It goes back a long time, but I don't know. This design just really speaks to me. It brings me back. It gives me nostalgic feels. Because look at that, SLI connectors on there. It's got, you know, dual 6-pin PCI Express graphics connectors before the days of the 12V 2x6. Really cool to have the nostalgic throwback here. They went from that to the 2010 version of the N480 GTX. You guys remember the 400 series from NVIDIA? These were monstrous in terms of power draw and heat. Oh my gosh, the heat output from these cards was pretty monstrous, but that meant you had to have a good cooler on it, right? Like the Twin Frozer, this was the 3 version, upgrade from the Twin Frozer 2, and then of course Twin Frozer 1. Continuing on historically, we have a few models over here that I didn't personally work with. This is the N580 GTX for the GTX 580. 3 gigs of GDDR5 memory, and this one had this dust removal thing where when you turn the system off, it would spin the fan blades in reverse to like try to kick the dust off of the fan blades and the heatsink, and that was pretty cool. From there we moved to 2012 with the GTX 680 right here, also the Lightning Edition. This is when they started to embrace sort of the yellow theme for this card, and that is something that they maintained for generations after that as we moved to the 700 series and 780 for the GTX 680 Lightning over here. So this was before backplates became widely universal and popular, but it does still have those SLI fingers on the side. Here we've upgraded to dual 8-pin PCI Express graphics connectors, and they've gone from 2 fans to 3 fans, a triple fan cooler. And of course, with this being a triple fan design, they upgraded the name to Tri-Frozer. And that brings us to the most recent generation of Lightning cards, the 980 Ti Lightning. It's from 2015 right here. There's a backplate. You obviously can't get up to 2015 GPUs unless you need a backplate. That was a premier bonus feature that you get with higher end graphics cards. They're still sticking with the triple fan design. With this one, they're using their Torx Gen 1 fans. Then we have the 1080 Ti Lightning over here. This one is a venerable installation because we all have nostalgic feels for the 1080 Ti, because it seems like it was the last time when NVIDIA was kind of doing right in terms of the GPUs they were launching, especially when it comes to like the performance you get for what the GPUs cost. Of course, the Lightning cards were the Halo product for MSI, so they did tend to have a bit of a price premium, but here it's the last generation that we had traditional SLI fingers. After that, we went to the RTX 2080 Ti Lightning Z. This was from 2019. This was when NVIDIA was like, we're going to change up the SLI connector now. We're going to go with the NVLink connector. But MSI was also, of course, upping their game by dropping an LCD screen onto it. This is like 6 years ago. This was before putting LCD screens everywhere inside your computer was as popular, at least as it is now. I did do at least one build with this graphics card. It actually is a pretty hard one to find because they didn't produce very many of them. But it's really cool that MSI was able to dig into their vault or wherever they keep all their old graphics cards to bust a few of these out and give a little bit of a history lesson for their booth here at CES 2026. Also, triple 8-pin power connectors. This was also the second to last generation before they went with the 12V 2x6 connector. And now, after a 6-7 year wait, we finally have the reintroduction of the Lightning series. And I already showed you this a lot at the beginning of the video, so now I can show it to you actually turned on. There it is in all its glory. As I already mentioned, the Maestro 900R case is a great showcase for this card, and that's kind of like why they designed it this way, because with an LCD screen this large, you obviously want to have it visible in your case. Right now it's showing us our GPU clock, temperature, usage, VRAM clock, all the typical stats that you would like to see for a GPU that's in use. And I also like that they've sort of stuck with the yellow aesthetic. I mean, granted it's gold, but yellow and gold are somewhat akin in terms of the color palette. So I hope you guys have enjoyed a little bit of coverage here. I was really trying to just do away with like the frustrations of the PC hardware space right now and just sort of be like, this is a really cool graphics card, it has a really cool design, and it also, you know, speaks back to a legacy of cards that MSI has come out with in the past. So we're going to go back to being bitter about PC hardware next because, of course, we don't have a price for this card. It's probably going to be insanely expensive because, if I didn't mention, it's a limited edition. This is number 3 out of 1,300 that they're planning to produce, and there is, at last, a close-up look at the dual 12V 2x6 connectors, enabling an an 800 watt power limit mode, a 1000 watt power limit mode, and a very special one, 2500 watt power limit made for LN2 overclocking. But that is all the time I have for this video, my coverage of MSI at CES 2026. I want to say a huge thank you to MSI for sponsoring my coverage this year, as well as my sponsors Asus, Gigabyte, and Thermaltake. I have more videos coming at you real soon, so hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this one. Check out the playlist in the video's description if you'd like to see more Computex coverage. We'll see you all in the next video.